Hello, everyone, and welcome to By Design with Dr. Erika, a show focused on highlighting amazing women who are stepping out of the box, saying screw the expectations of society, and essentially living their life by design and the life that they were designed for. Today on our show, I am joined by Lynze Ballay. And Lynze is the founder of She Works Abroad, which essentially is a company that is helping professionals create, build, and transition their global careers. To date, Lynze has coached over 100 individuals to discover and implement their next career step. She's worked with clients across Europe, Asia, and the Americas, and across all lines of business. Today, we will chat with Lynze about her personal global career, her expat experience, and how she's able to live out of the box. So, Lynze, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dr. Erika, thanks for having me. Good to be here with you.
No problem, no problem. Before we jump into the actual, interview questions, I have to deal with the elephant in the room.
Sure.
Which is, we're in the middle of COVID. How's the abroad life going for clients during this environment?
It is really interesting. This is probably, I think two things have happened, Dr. Erika, that have opened my mind during this time. One is that so many people who were unhappy with where they worked and unhappy with where they lived, it's now been every single day in that role, in their house, in their job, in that city, a lot of people are done. They know they don't want it. They've had this time to reflect during quarantine, and the fact that they might continue to be stuck in this city, in this job. I have a lot of people who are coming to me that are just help me build the bridge to my next career, which is awesome. The other part is that there's a little bit of a misconception about traveling versus moving. So right now, a lot of borders are locked down. In the United States, it is hard for Americans right now to travel to Europe. But if you have a job and a business visa, you actually can go and move. I've transitioned about 5 people during COVID to international jobs in foreign countries because they had a work visa. They had a quarantine when they got there. They had to take precautions and be smart, but people are still moving.
Huh. Okay, that's a good point. I never would have thought about that, the travel versus the actual relocation and different stipulations. Right. Okay, cool. That's interesting.
I know.
Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
I thought about that last night as I was sleeping and preparing for this. I was like, I have to ask her about COVID, and all this stuff that's going on. But in looking at your business, how you're helping these people go to all these various places, has that always been your life? Have you always been that adventurous woman that you are now?
It's interesting because I try to go back to where this all started. I grew up in small town Ohio, the youngest of 5 kids. Most of our travel was around the Midwest. I didn't grow up in a situation where we were flying to Paris and to London and exposed to all these locations. As I got a little bit older, my parents wanted to travel for their own pleasure, and they would take us sometimes to go to different locations. And I remember so vividly the first time I made it to Europe.
Where did you go?
We went to London, right? Which I think is a really good feeder for people. The first is, you speak English. It's, you know some of the culture. Right. I remember thinking why did no one tell me about this? This is amazing. This is so interesting. I can't believe that people have been keeping this from me. Mm-hmm. So after that little taste, I tried to step outside of the box a few times. I asked my parents if I could do a semester during high school for an exchange program in China. They were just it was so outside the box from what anyone had requested before that they were respectfully, no. We're not going to do that. You're our only daughter. You're the youngest of 5.
Oh, you're only daughter too.
Yes. Yes. And then once I got to college, then I knew. I was I have to go explore further than what I have had the opportunity to do so far. And so my parents, it was actually my dad. He who did not travel at all growing up, but he kind of understood what I was trying to do, which was to see what else was going on in other parts of the world, in life, in business, in culture, etc. So he said, if you can fund your way, if you can find your way, if you can find the scholarships, etc., I'll support you. I think he didn't think I would be able to, but like when someone told me that's what I needed to do, I was like, great, fine, I'm going to do it. So I did. I self-funded got scholarships for my entire first study abroad. And it was interesting because when you want to get scholarships for study abroad, they don't typically give scholarships to like Italy, Spain, like these beautiful locations because there's such a demand. But where they would give scholarships was to the Middle East and Africa.
Huh.
So the first place I went was Dubai. And that flipped on its head everything for me. It was so life-changing that I came back and actually switched one of my majors to be focused on the Middle East. And now I can trace that all back to, it wasn't specifically the Middle East that I was so interested in, but it was rather the global world outside of, in that case, what was Ohio.
Gotcha. Wow. So from Ohio to Dubai, that's different, much different than London, you know.
It is.
That's kind of brave to be in college and do all that work and just head over to a completely foreign place. There was no like fear, no like, you know, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? None of that came into your mind?
Of course it did. But I also had something to prove. And I think that's, you know, to myself, to other people as well. And so that kind of was, you know, I always tell my clients, like, fear is part of the journey, but to stay in fear is totally a choice, right? Like you get to select like what emotion you want to go with. So along with fear, I was going with excitement. I was going with doing something new. I was going with proving something to myself. And that's what led me through those first points. But I have had so many experiences where I've showed up in a foreign circumstance, a foreign land, didn't speak the language, was with other people. I just recently did this. I went at, you know, like in my mid 30s, went and stayed with a host family. Like who does that?
Wow.
Right? And like, did not speak. I was in South Argentina, like in the middle of nowhere. But I like putting myself in a situation where I have to learn and grow. Like I have to adapt in order to survive. And that's basically what Dubai was. Like I had to adapt in order to enjoy myself and survive.
Wow. Okay. That's, yeah. I don't think I'm not that brave yet.
Baby steps.
Yes, I said.
Some of it is bravery, but also I had so many like internal little signs, things kind of reminding me like, this is your path, this is your journey, you'll be okay, you know. And I've gotten better at listening to those as the years have gone on, like that kind of calling to go do interesting work and interesting projects. But it's, in the beginning, I think it was kind of weighing like, can I do this?
Right. What do you think helped you get better at listening to that sort of intuition?
Wow, practice. I mean, practice, lots of practice. And I think outside help too, to get me out of my head. I originally started a career working for a large American chemical company. And I was in the Middle East working for this organization. And I see now, like I fell really quickly into the corporate world, right? Like the big organization and all the different levels and leadership, and this is what your career will look like. And by the time I'd been there long enough, what I realized was I'd gotten really bad at listening to what I wanted and really good at listening to what other people thought I should do.
Yeah. I think that's an easy trap to fall into in corporate, you know.
It is. I mean, because you have a lot of people who have a lot of experience. They're willing to give you help. They have ideas for where your career could go. They want you to stay at that organization. So they're kind of molding you. But it came to a head where I just kept feeling like there was a part of me that wasn't speaking. And it took me, I would say, Dr. Erika, the better part of 2 to 3 years to really untangle what I was trying to say.
Right. And that's something, you know, I'm glad you say that, because a lot of people, they see individuals like you or other people that have been on my show who have been in corporate and have done different things. And they think it was this instantaneous moment, like I woke up Wednesday and I decided I'm going to change my life. It's a process. That happens.
It is a real process. And in the beginning, I will tell you, I didn't know. I knew there was something I was supposed to be saying because it was, I could feel it. Like it kept coming to me. I kept having like little flashes of, oh, I want to write about that, or I'm going to read about that. And just a real yearning to feel like I had a foundation to stand on that was me.
Mhm.
And I was hell-bent on figuring out what that was, but that journey was not one that was straight. Like on the road to paradise, there was a lot of turbulence, and like I had a bunch of turbulence. So I had to go down a lot of different pathways and back doors to finally end up with She Works Abroad, which, in the end, it's like, duh, that's what I was always supposed to be doing. Hindsight's 2020. But during the process, I just remember being so scared that I was going to say something that would hurt my reputation.
Mm.
Like if I put my real self out there, if I start saying things that are different than what I've said before, how my careers looked before, that I will be perceived differently. And I was real scared of that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a definite fear. I've had that as well. I tell people, like, I was afraid to put my changes in career on LinkedIn, because for me, like when it went on LinkedIn, it's real.
It's like the real world.
Everyone, what are they gonna say? What's gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think getting over that is very, it's crucial.
It's crucial. It's crucial. And it can be in baby steps. And I think once I did it a little bit more and more and more, and I kept using that muscle, like it just got stronger and stronger and stronger, to the point now where like I'm very happy to get on a podcast and talk about like what I love and what I love to do.
Right.
Time. It did take time.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love what you do. I wish you would have been around when I was in college, back many, many moons ago, when the idea of, even doing a semester abroad was not commonplace at all. I don't even remember anybody from my department doing anything like that at all. So what'd you say?
I said interesting. Like,
yeah, not at all.
If you switch now, 71% of millennials expect to have some sort of international work during their career.
Really?
That's how global the world has become. That like the idea that you can be working cross cultures in different locations, short-term assignments, long-term assignments, is something that millennials crave. And now with COVID, I mean, everything has basically been flipped on its head. What I thought was going to take a long time to get popular, companies embracing remote work, is now overnight changed. And I like personally get excited about the opportunities for people to look at their career instead of being in one location as how can I drive the most impact for the business, have the most fun for myself and my career. How is that not linked to a singular location?
Right. Interesting. Millennials. So what about the other generations? I'm curious now because, like Gen X, which is my generation, and boomers, like, are they starting to come to you as well? Has that expanded?
Boomers come to me, and they come to me because they want to set up a retirement elsewhere. Right? They're like, hey, this is great, but like, I want to live the life I want to live, and I want to be able to not have to work till I'm 70. It's probably going to have to be in another country. What country should that be? What can it look like? Which is exciting, right? That's an exciting like next phase of your life.
Right.
Gen Z, like usually when they come, it's that they have had a domestic career that has been successful. Like they've liked what they've been doing. They've had a domestic career, but they haven't yet had that international assignment. And gosh, that has been on the back of their minds since they were 20 years old. A lot of times I hear like, I wish I would have studied abroad. I never had that opportunity. I went straight to work. I worked for 15 years. And now I'm at a point where it's me. Like, I need to do something that's different, that's going to fuel my soul, because I can't just stay doing the same thing I've been doing for the last 15 plus years. So it's different. It is different by generation.
Gotcha. Does it differ by like, disciplines is not the word I'm looking for, but like business types, like whether it's pharma or finances or things like that? Do the opportunities differ in terms of their abundance and availability?
Well, to go kind of flip that on its head a bit, what does not differ is like who has this dream. Okay. It's interesting because I always say, like, if God has put this on your heart and it has continued to be on your heart for like last 2, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is, like there is something that you're supposed to be doing abroad. Someone you're supposed to be meeting, an impact you're supposed to be making, something you're supposed to learn. Like it's not a mistake that it hasn't gone away for you. Because a lot of people, and this is what a lot of the scrutiny that I would face was like, it's fine to do it when you're young, but like you're an adult now, you're married and you have a child. Like it's time to grow up, Lynze, and stop doing this. Right. And I had other people who feel the same way. They're like, I can't kick this. And they do what I call the bad boomerang, which is they work, millennials do this a lot. They work really hard for 2 to 3 years. They save up enough money and then they go and they go all out. They quit their job. They go travel for 6 months to a year. They have the best time of their life. They meet all these international people. They have all this fun, but then they have to come back to whatever country they live in to find a job and start working again. And they do this. And by the time they've done it 2-3 times, they're like, this isn't fun anymore. Right? It's like not fun to work, to do all this work, be miserable for 2-3 years, to then go do this, what I call the bad boomerang. So I talk with them about, okay, if this is really what's in your heart, if this is what you feel called to do, then let's find a sustainable solution where you professionally can go work and live abroad so that that personal side is also fed at the same time. So the fact that like people come to me from finance and engineering and liberal arts and all over the board doesn't surprise me, because it's who has this dream, who doesn't have this dream. Seemingly there's no one, there's no one profile. So I always say, like, if you can do it where you are, like there's a need for it. There's going to be a need for it abroad. We just have to figure out where that need is. It might not be where you think it is.
Right. That's interesting, because that was my own like internal, I guess, misconception. When I think of people going abroad, I think of big companies like I say, pharma, because I know they have headquarters abroad. And I never think of just how expansive, this is going to sound silly, just how expansive life is in general.
Yeah.
Abroad, like if it's here, it's probably somewhere else too. So yeah. Okay.
I know it is different. It looks different. And, I think sometimes people, I hear some myths, some common things that go on. And one is I have to join a big company where I work or where I live in order to work abroad.
Right.
Right. Like that's kind of
what I would think. Yeah.
Right. And I have to work there for 5 to 7 years. And then at that point, and I have a funny story about this. I was told that when I first started my career, they were like, listen, if you want to go abroad, here's the path. You join a company, and after 7 years, if you're a high performer and there's a need and you fit that need, it was like if all the stars and the moons align in this perfect order on this one day, then you, my dear, will be able to go abroad. And I was like, I'm not playing that game. Yeah, like that for me sounds like a gamble. And like I'm a gambling person, but I know when I'm going to lose. Like I know when the odds are against me. Mm-hmm. So I was always, and still am, like, you hold your career, you hold your destiny, and you get to find what your different options and opportunities are. And perhaps it is in a big organization, but perhaps it's also not. So attaching your star to one location, hoping that everything happens, I can tell you, because I coach a lot of people who have been heartbroken because they've been in the same organization asking repeatedly for 2, 4, 6 years and not been given the opportunity. And that for me means, okay, we've got to find the other options.
Right. Wow. So is being that you heard sort of all those closed doors to your wanting to have this opportunity, was that sort of the premonition of why you decided, you know what, I'm going to say, screw what they say and develop my own company, which is what you did basically? Was that how it sort of came about?
Yeah, it was how it came about, because I didn't have anyone to go to when I was going through like the process of creating a global career. And that's how I look at it, is a global career doesn't mean that you have to be international every day of your life, right? It means your outlook on your life and your career spans your current city, spans your current country, and looks outside at where you can be adding the most value, where you can be growing personally and professionally, where you can come alive and do the best work of your life, right? Because that's not always in the same hometown that you were born. Mm-hmm. So looking at it from that angle, I did not have anyone in my life who could give me that type of counsel on like, you should be looking at this location or this region or talking to this person. It was very much more along the lines of join a company and like follow the ranks. And I struggled on my own for a long time to kind of come up with this identity, like who am I, this identity, and how can I kind of cross different international lines without being a travel blogger, and no knock to them, like without being a travel blogger or someone who goes and lives like a digital nomad. It just wasn't me. I wanted a professional career. I wanted to really live in that location and meet those people and work with those people. And I created what I was looking for.
Wow. And how long did it take? What was like the process of getting to that moment of saying, I'm creating something, to it actually coming to fruition?
So I knew what I wanted to do, but I was really scared of it. I found all the reasons it wouldn't work. And what I ended up doing was hiring a coach to work with me for about 6 intensive months, both on the business and the business model. But we all know, like, you have the business model, but like what comes like right alongside it is all that personal headspace mindset drama. Yeah. Like you can't get one without the other. I'm sorry. Right. They just come together. They were a twin package. And she was really helpful with me, just saying like, I hear what you're saying and I hear all your fears, but this is it. This is what you can build from. Like, this is what people want and need, and what you're getting calls for and mentorship for, and people coming to work your office and knocking on your door and asking for help with. And just kind of reshuffling a little bit of how I would enter the market. Mm-hmm. So we had all those big ideas, like it was all out there. But then what did I start doing? At that point, I was working full time. I had a job I was working. I actually really, really liked. I started writing on the side, all those thoughts and ideas, all those messages I wanted to give to people. And I asked, my boss knew that I was doing some of this work. She's just lovely. She's a lovely person. We're still quite close. But I would say, I'm cooking something up on the side, and I'm going to start writing. I'm going to start putting out blog posts. I'm going to try to tie them back to our business, but some of them are getting a little bit different. And I would post like a LinkedIn, a LinkedIn article, right? But I would tell her before I was going to do it, because I was scared. I didn't want like my current work to think, what's Lynze doing over here? Right. But I remember it was a total sign from God. The first LinkedIn article I post went viral.
Really?
Got 10,000 eyes on it within the first 3 days.
Okay. Do you remember what the title was, or what it was about?
Probably something like why you should go abroad, or why your career should be international, something like this, right?
I have to find that.
And I just remember being like, whoa, wow. Like, okay, there's an audience for this. People want to learn about how to have an international career. And so that was really the first kind of year or so. I was writing, I was talking with people, I was listening, I was giving advice, I was mentoring. And then after that first year of kind of building this side hustle, etc., I asked my boss if at that point in time I was running a big team and I was really ingrained in the business. I just said, can I take one afternoon off a week? And I'll make it up in the other hours. I already was, right? It's not like I was working 9 to 5. Like, I'll make it up. But can I take one afternoon off a week just to focus on this, on this side passion project? And so I wrote, like, one thing I know is how to get approval for things. So I wrote a really good business plan about like it wouldn't impact the business and how I'd make up the time, and if we had a special meeting where I would be, that sort of thing. But she said yes.
Wow.
So it was little by little by little that, over the course of about 3 years, it started to come to fruition.
Okay, gotcha. Wow, and that was a big step right there, because a lot of people I don't think would even think of asking their boss for that afternoon off, or even take it to the level that you did, which is amazing, and actually give them this plan of, I thought this all through. I thought of every reason you could say no, but I have an answer for you right here in my plan of how I'm going to make up that. That's amazing.
And that's something I help with, my current students as well, is like, if they want to go abroad with their current work, or they think there's an opportunity, or they want to take their career remote or have more flexibility, how do you get a yes? How do you get a yes for an organization that's only said no?
Right.
And, one thing you've heard me say a few times here is, what's the value that you can provide? Like, how can you help the business grow? Super often what I hear when people are struggling is they're coming from the I. Like, I want to go to France. I want to go to Paris. It's important for me. I have to do it. And I'm like, knowing your internal motivations is awesome, right? But in order to get a yes, you got to think differently.
Right. That's a good point. I like that. So in talking about, your clients, because I was wondering, and you touched on it a little bit, because you say you coach your clients, because I was wondering, like, what is the process? If I come to you and like, Lynze, I need to go to Italy, which is where I want to go. But I need to go to Italy. How do I get there? Kind of what's the process that you do with them?
Sure. So the first thing that we do is you and I have like an early onset discussion about what you've been doing that's working, what you've been doing that hasn't working, what's your motivation for going. Essentially, I'm trying to gauge a little bit like what's your level of commitment for this.
Okay.
Because going abroad, taking your career from domestic to global isn't easy. It's not easy. If it was easy, like everyone would be working everywhere. It's not. It's not. And so knowing your level of commitment, like as I say, on the road to paradise, there's a little bit of turbulence. Sometimes it takes people, when I'm working with people, it'll take them 6 weeks and they'll move a job internationally. It's like, whoa. Other times it takes 6 months. The only difference is the staying power, right? Like the only, like, I don't know. I always say like, I don't know when, I only know if. So if I can, like through our conversation, I ask you like questions. If I know you're committed to this, you're going to do it. You've decided this is your life. The calling's bigger than you. You've had it for a while. It's deep inside. Then like, I just know it's going to happen for you. I just don't know when. I don't know when that perfect opportunity is going to come, but we are going to find your options. We're going to go after those options. We're going to get in front of hiring managers. We're going to have discussions about your international value. That's what we're going to do. And all you have to do is just hold on to the right opportunity comes. Could be 6 weeks, could be 6 months. You know, kind of it differs based on the person. So when someone comes to me, that's what I'm looking for. And then I'm looking for a certain mix of skills and capabilities that they've had, right? International experience, getting international experience before you move abroad is incredibly helpful in order to get hired. So if you haven't had, and when I say international experience, it can be traveling, but I love like more in-depth travel where someone has spent some time getting to know, because it's different when you breeze through a place, you see all the beautiful sights. It's different than when you have to go someplace and you have to figure out, for example, like how to get to, you know, your first study abroad class or how to do something like that. So
is knowing the language pertinent?
The great thing for us, Dr. Erika, is that English is the lingua franca.
Okay.
So for the vast majority of locations, English is going to be the language that's spoken in the office or with customers. Okay. If there's a need for the local language, you will see it all over the job description, right? Like must speak. But most of the time, English is the way to go. So we'll start to look at those, you know, those different options that you've been trying and just come up with, here's the plan of attack. Here's the marketing plan. Here's the strategy for reach out. Here's the interview strategy and how to go from basically having a global domestic career to how do I transition into that international job.
Gotcha. Okay. And that just, the more and more we talk, it just changes in my mind about the process. Cause in my head, I was like, I'm looking for jobs abroad. Like I'm actually like on LinkedIn looking for jobs abroad instead of working from it in my own company to make that happen for my career.
Yeah, so, right. And it can be both. Like, you know, I say you need at least 2 clear options. One can be in your organization if we deem that there are good opportunities. Sometimes there aren't. People usually know that. So if we want to go that route, we're going to try that route. But we're also going to have a second option going at the same time in case it doesn't work out, right? That second option, that's why I love direct hires, direct to hire in a foreign country, because you have a lot of control over that. You have a lot of control about who is hiring international employees, wants to have a conversation with you, who's looking for your talents and abilities. Sometimes internal, like interestingly enough, the politics can trump the actual merit of you for the role.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's always politics, right? The red tape.
Yeah, the red tape. So, you know, we don't fight it. We work with it, but we also make sure there's always another option you can pursue.
Right. Okay. Now you mentioned, you know, that sort of relocating abroad for a job is difficult. What's the most difficult part of actually doing that and actually, I guess, taking root in that new location?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people think the most difficult part is finding the job and getting, but then they get there and they have like their first, they have like their first like whoa experience that they're not working in the same culture, and they're like, oh, okay, I see. So I also, when my students are going, I give them like tons of intercultural, hey, here's what to expect your first 6 months in terms of your own emotions, your own feelings, how things are going to go. There's always a honeymoon period. Like, this is amazing, everything I've always wanted, the best thing of my entire life. Oh my gosh, I just got yelled at my boss and I don't know why, because I'm not quite sure. There's like a cultural barrier and I don't know what I did wrong, because what I would have done back in my home country, and then there's like I can't do this isn't going well. And then it kind of goes back uphill and you stabilize. So I think the biggest hurdle when it comes to working abroad is just knowing there's going to be cultural hiccups, and having the resilience and kind of the introspection to be like, how can I adjust? How can I change and be more adaptable so that everyone's more successful in this environment?
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because, in the intro, we talked about you having students that are sort of all over the place. Do you keep those students connected? Is there sort of a...
They do. When they get together, it's amazing. Like, it's awesome. Yeah. So they're all connected. The whole alumni network is connected. They know where each other are, whether it be in Asia, Europe, South America, etc. And that's fun. I think one of the most fun parts about your global career is having a network of other professionals who want and are going after global careers. Because so often they've heard from other people or professionals, like, it's a pipe dream. When you retire, then you can travel. Like, they basically heard it's not going to happen. And so to be surrounded by all those people who are also like, oh, trying to make it happen, fuels the fire. And there's a lot of lasting friendships that come out of it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I know someone that they went abroad and they now live in Mexico. And when they got there, they're like, I was told lies. Like, it's amazing. There's so many of us that are over here that, left America and came to Mexico. So I'm sure it's tons of people that are not in my circle that have done that. And one day, maybe I'll get there.
Good. Well, you know where to find me when you're ready.
Exactly. So how do you decide, I guess, who you work with? Do they just find you? How does that happen?
It's a lot of word of mouth. It's a lot of word of mouth. Again, because there aren't, like, I really don't know that many global career strategists, right? In fact, I know none. I'm the only one I currently know who really sits down with people and says, what does your career look like on a global level? How do we make that happen? How do we go after that and make this part of your dream come true? And so for that reason, and this is what some of my clients tell me too, they're like, I'm the only one I know with this dream, like this burning desire. So it can be hard to find other people. But what I find is, like, once someone knows that that's what they want and they're looking for help with it, like, they will search to the bottom of the internet to come up with like how they get help and who's the right person. One thing that I use is Facebook. I have a big Facebook group of people, and in that Facebook group, I think I speak differently than in other groups I've been part of. This isn't just about travel. It's fulfilling like an underlying burning desire for you to be part of a different culture. I consider myself to be what's called an existential migrant, which is someone who feels more at home outside of their country than inside their country. Just how I'm wired, for whatever reason, that's like my gift that I've been given. And so when I speak, it's a lot of times it's about that deeper calling to go do something or experience something or give back, find something internationally, than just traveling, and which is a very joyful experience. But for some people, it's just never going to be enough.
Right. Have your parents now sort of come along with you on this journey since?
They have. They've warmed up to the idea. It was interesting when one of the questions that you posed to me was like, tell me about your first move. The first move was actually pretty easy. Like, now that I have made other, subsequent moves, it was pretty easy because I was footloose and fancy free. Like, I didn't have a husband or a dog or a daughter or a mortgage. Like, I didn't have anything. I could just go, like, see ya, I'm out of here. But as my life has acquired different aspects and grown in a different way, I've had to think about our international excursions, our international time that we spend abroad differently. And I think in the beginning it was hard for like a lot of people, you come from a community where like you get married, you have kids, you settle down, you get this house, and that's the house you have until maybe forever, And the fact that like I just wasn't doing that was rubbing people a little bit the wrong way. So I had to have a really good, my husband and I just had a really like really good solid foundation for what we were standing for and what was important to us. And that led us to make different decisions in, our life. And like, I can explain that to my parents, his parents, everyone, but I know that they're never going to fully understand it because it's just so radically different than what they've experienced.
Now, is your husband I can't even say that word, existential?
He's not. Okay. He's not an existential migrant. He's not. He grew up abroad and he's had a lot of international experience. He's lived abroad. Obviously, we've lived abroad together. But he feels very comfortable, like, where he is and wherever he is. So if he comes with me and we're international, that's great. He's good there. But one of the biggest things we had was, I call it, we're in a modern nomadic marriage. For a long time, he worked all week in New York and I would be like in Argentina.
Oh, wow.
And we would meet up. Like every 2 weeks we would meet up, and he'd be working in the US and I'd be working in South America. And then we would meet up, because what he needed was a city that was like, that would pumped a lot of energy and gave a lot of enthusiasm and tons of business, etc. And I needed one that was highly diverse, speaking a different language, totally different culture and customs. And they weren't always on the same page. Like our work wasn't always going to align perfectly. So we both wanted to have dynamic careers, and we had to give up on the idea that maybe there was one spot where both of us could have everything.
Right. And that's big, because everyone has this idea of what anything should be, how my marriage should be, how my career should be, how my life should be. And you just need to define it for yourself sometimes.
And try things out, experiment. I mean, when we first started experimenting with that, with me living in Argentina and he was in New York, like, we had to stay in really close connection because we knew what the outside people were saying, right? Like we knew what was happening out there. So we said, even though that's what's happening, like this is working for us. And we're actually both really happy and satisfied and like having a great time when we come together. Is it forever? No, but is it working for right now? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's enjoy that and not worry.
Wow. So when you have clients that are married, like that, and you're coaching, let's say the wife, because she wants to do something abroad, do you bring the spouse in on the coaching sessions, or how does that work?
So from like the very beginning, there has to be, if there isn't an agreement or alignment on going abroad, I will say, like, I think you need to have a more deeper conversation on what this could look like, because it's not fair for you to do all this work, get this perfect job opportunity, and then not go because your family never really wanted to. I was like, that's really, that's really painful. So let's, in the beginning, let's find a way where like you can go what you're looking for, and also like your family can get what they're looking for. But I've typically found that by the time people come to me, their spouse is super supportive because it's something they've been talking about forever. Forever. Like, and it's at a point now where they're like, please let's just do it. Like, you've been talking about this. It's something you've always wanted. And like, I'm here for it. Like, just tell me what we need to do.
Right.
Which is amazing. And I would say usually the vast majority of the time, that's where they're at.
Okay. Tell me when to pack, where my plane ticket is, and I'm ready to go.
And I'll go. We'll go. It's fine. I get it, And I love that. That's awesome, because that's the type of relationship that I'm in too. So it's nice when that you have a supportive partner along the way to do things differently.
I like this. Yeah. Okay. Now you said, I know we talked about places you live and everything. And well, first of all, let me back up, because you were talking about different cultures and languages. And this is just a random question. So what languages do you speak?
Right. So I studied Arabic in school and then moved to the Middle East. And then Spanish I have from high school, and actually Spanish is what I'm aiming for fluency in. And this, do you speak other languages? or have tried?
I took German for 5 years.
Okay, how'd
I
it go?
remember, like, what'd you say?
How did it go?
Oh, I loved it, but I just don't remember much of it. I know a song in German, and that's about it.
No. So I struggled. I had the same problem, and it would drive me nuts because I was like, personally, like something that I hold of high value and esteem is the ability to speak multiple languages, right?
Mm.
Like that's amazing. And all these people learn it when they're like itty bitty, and here I am, like trying to learn it, like a little bit more like off the cuff. And I just found that my old way of learning, the way I learned in college, just did not work. It was like my brain could not remember and absorb it. So I'll give you a hack.
Okay.
There's this book called Fluent Forever, and it's a totally different way of learning a language. And when I was on my discovery to be like, I must be fluent in another language. This is crazy. I'm like living in these locations and like trying to speak with these people. Like I need a level of fluency. I knew that the way I learned before, like going through the grammar books and stuff, it wasn't like I needed to put in more effort. I was putting in
Right.
effort, and it wasn't sticking. It was like
Right.
So I found this book called Fluent Forever by Gabrielle Weiner, and it totally changed the game.
Huh.
Totally changed the game. Within like 6 months, I was conversational in Spanish. Now within like 2 years, we only have a Spanish speaking household at home. We speak Spanish 100% of the day. So this too can be yours with a different type of learning technique. I know.
I might have to pick a different language though. I don't know. I might go to Spanish or French this time around.
Or Italian if you want to go to Italy at some
There
point.
you go. Yeah. Okay. Fluent.
Forever. So
Forever.
good.
I couldn't read my own handwriting. Okay. I have to look into that. Cool.
Look into it.
So now you've been to so many places. What's left? Like, where do you want to go? Like, what's left on your bucket list to
Yeah. It's not so much what's left on my bucket list, but like where I want to spend more time.
Okay.
Like where I want to get more ingrained in the culture. Because that's what's really important to me at this point. Like my dream, like what I think about when I think about being international and spending more time abroad is inviting large groups of people, basically being kind of like a intercultural household where people can come from different backgrounds and ethnicities and et cetera, and come kind of just enjoy being in a new experience and maybe just open them up to something that they wouldn't experience before. For a lot of what the travel I've been doing across South America, you know, it's getting deeper understanding of those different locations and the people that live there and how they live. That's now at this point, it's more of like getting that mastery of a different location. I know, but of course there'll always be a bucket list because bucket lists are fun and there's more places to go. But for me, there'll be off the grid. You know, it'll be interior China and interior Russia and places that I just have not yet gone to.
Oh goodness. How do you keep track of them? Because I know some people when they travel, you know, they collect things. I collect postcards. Some people have maps on their walls and they put pins in. What do you do to commemorate?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question. The answer is I don't. But I will tell you, I reflect a lot on like my favorite travel excursions. One of my favorite things to do before I go to bed is like go back to some of my most interesting travel moments. I find it just like brings me a lot of like joy and peace before I go to sleep. But I will typically go back to like 2 or 3 different locations, like biking through rice paddies in Vietnam and eating night noodles at a market where my husband's knees were like on this small chair. His knees were like above his head, you know, like things that just were like, this is awesome. This is the moments that you want to remember and going back and thinking about those. And so I have those from all over the world. And those like memories are what I love.
Wow. That's great. Do you take photos a lot?
I do take photos, but I'm telling you, when I'm there, I'm in it.
You're in it.
I'm in it. You know, I'm talking to, like, my favorite thing to do is to go find the local market and go like try all the foods, talk to all the people, haggle as much as possible. Like that's what I want to be doing. So for me, it's capturing those conversations and those moments and not always the photo.
Yeah. Gotcha. When you said the market, that like my heart sank because like I'm such a foodie person and I would love to go to this open market and see the spices and like one of my dreams is to go back to Paris and actually stay there for like 6 months and take like a cooking pastry class. And
So good.
oh my gosh, yes.
So
So
good. I know. Here's the thing, right? So you want to go for 6 months and you want to go take a pastry class. If you went for 2 weeks and took a pastry class, you'd have that like, level that would give you enough joy for a year.
right.
Like it's so nice. My husband is really good about this because we have done a lot of extensive travel. And he would say, some people say like, don't go to India unless you have 3 weeks. He's like, we have 2 days. You want to go to India?
Why not?
Right? He's like, like people say you need all this time to do all this stuff. You don't, you just do it. Just
Yep.
go, just do it. When you have the time, you just do it.
Yeah.
And so we've been to a lot of places, some for a little bit of time and some for a long time, but we've just done it.
Yeah. Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insights and just letting us know, that there are other options that we can take beyond just living in our status quo of our current job here in the US. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, I think, again, like, if you're called, if this has been something on your mind for a long time and it's different than just traveling, like you really want to be in that culture, that like it's up to you to be like, I've got to follow this. It's time. Right. Just like how I did to discover She Works Abroad and get it to this point. It was like I had to keep following those little breadcrumbs of like, you are on the right track.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Now, I can't let you go without doing my Fab Four, which I do for every guest.
Oh, so awesome.
Would you mind just staying a little bit longer?
Sure, why not? Let's do it.
So our Fab Four is just a very rapid fire question, first thing that comes to your mind. Mm-hmm. And yeah, nothing difficult.
Okay, good.
Okay, so the first one, if you had one superpower, what would it be?
Easy. Ability to speak all languages on demand.
Easy. I'm going to go with something like transportation so you can get there quickly, but
I want to get there. I want to be able to like look at that person and fluently speak that language and be like, we just had an amazing conversation.
I love it. I love it. Okay. If you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, who would it be?
I think I'd have to pick I would go different like angles and dimensions. I'm having a dinner with Jesus. That is happening. I've got a lot of questions. I want to hear what's really going on from the source. I'd have to pick someone from my family, just like out of that heritage, to meet someone when they were younger and have a conversation, like a great grandmother, my namesake, like being able to sit with them, like what a emotional journey that would be to have that type of conversation. And then probably someone that I would aspire to, who's done things on their own terms. I love, do you know the Queen of the Desert, Queen of Arabia, Gertrude Bell? She basically was like she was a woman of firsts, like first woman to travel through Arabia, first woman to help like the Arab people meet the British Empire, first person she is a lot of firsts, and she just did it. Like no one was like happy that a woman was out there doing this, and but she was like, this is what I'm supposed to do, and I'm doing it. Right. And I love that. I would love to talk to her.
She should be on the podcast. Right. Okay, Jesus, family member, and Queen of Arabia.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. So if you had to choose a theme song essentially for your life, it can be the season, it can be your life, but you kind of decide, what would your theme song be?
So I guess this has to be my theme song because I listen to it so much, because it's almost like my husband's like, stop playing that song. But it's Barcelona by George Ezra, I think that's right. He's a young British singer-songwriter. The reason I love it is a couple things. One, he's like got a beautiful, soulful old voice. Lovely. 2, it's about a city that is completely magical, Barcelona, really beautiful, and I love the way he talks about it. But 3 is, I read a little bit about how he wrote that song, and he just like left on a whim and was like, I'm gonna go to Barcelona, and I think he did like a couch surfing or something like that, really just kind of like just went and was so inspired. He actually was I think he was couch surfing, and he couch surfed with a girl who was a musician and a singer-songwriter who was so amazing that she inspired him to write an entire album. And I was like, that's like the little nuggets of like, if you spend 2 weeks in Paris, it could change your entire trajectory of your life. You could come up with all of these new ideas and insights and inspiration that could feed your whole next level of business.
Wow. Okay. Barcelona. That is getting added to our list.
Good.
Now, the last question is kind of 3 parts, so I kind of cheat a little bit. But it's just finish the statements.
Okay.
I love.
Oh, well, now you know this, Dr. Erika. I love hanging in markets, haggling in markets, eating all the things in markets. I want to be in the market.
Okay. I'll be there with you. I dream of.
I dream of global talent being borderless, meaning just people can go wherever they need to go to do big things in their life. I love that.
Okay, I love it. I love seeing people talk about their passion because I love how your face and like your breath just changes when you speak.
Yeah.
So I can tell. Okay, last one. I am.
I have something I say every single day to myself in the morning, which is I am making an impact.
Love it.
I'm making an impact, and it might be in one person's life, it might be an entire family's life, et cetera, but like I'm doing something that is making an impact, and that's in that individual, but I know bigger than that. The more people that are abroad, the more people that are living in their purpose, the more likely it is that we are going to have better cross-cultural understanding, that we're going to get deeper bonds with one another as humans. And like, for me, I don't think there's anything more important than that at this point in time in our world.
Wonderful. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much again. I'm sure you've impacted the viewers that are watching this. So if they want to stay connected, what's your social media? How can they follow you?
Sure. So sheworksabroad.com is my website. Lynze Ballay, which I'm sure we'll have the spelling here somewhere, on LinkedIn. Those are 2 great places to find me. I'm also on Instagram, and you can see my personal life, but my business and my fun are She Works Abroad online, and then Lynze Ballay on LinkedIn.
Okay. And yes, we will definitely include all those details of her social media handles. And I'll even put in the name of the book that she mentioned, The Fluent Forever.
Yes.
Just if you want to get that, you can remember that. And yeah, all those details will be there. Again, Lynze, thank you so much.
Thank you. So fun to speak with you. Love what you're doing and your light and your energy. It's a great place for women to come and be inspired by, I think, everything that's going on. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you. No problem. Thank you. And guys, that's all the time we have today. If you are ready to sort of step out of your own box in your journey, I would love to help you find your path and take you from your ordinary existence to your extraordinary life. So if you haven't connected with me, feel free to reach out, schedule your clarity call, and let's begin your journey to finding your light at the end of your tunnel. And we hope to see you next Thursday. Thanks as always for listening. And that's all. Bye, guys.